Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Now, let us discuss the various theories that have been put forward as a cause of mass extinction. All these theories, in one way or other, qualifies the set parameters. First of these theory is called as extraterrestrial impact. According to this theory, the extraterrestrial bodies, just like asteroids or comets, would have collided with the Earth. And this collision would have produced huge amount of dust and particulate aerosols. These particulate matter and the dust particles would have caused food chains to collapse, both on the land as well as on the sea, and thus they could have inhibited the photosynthesis. Another impact would have been on the sulfur-rich rocks. If this collision resulted in the emission of sulfur oxides from these sulfur-rich rocks, this could have precipitated as the poisonous acid rains. It could have contributed further to the collapse of food chains. Yet another impact would have been the resultant mega tsunamis or the global forest fires. So this is one theory. There are many such theories. For example, the food basalt events. Food basalt events would have formed large igneous rocks. These large igneous rocks would have produced dust and particulate aerosols, again which could have inhibited photosynthesis and caused food chains to collapse. They could also have released sulfur oxides, which would have precipitated as acid rains. There is a possibility that they had emitted carbon dioxide and possibly caused the sustained global warming once the dust and particulate aerosols dissipated. Another theory is called as sea level falls or the fall in the sea levels. Fall in sea levels would have reduced the most productive part of the oceans, the continental shelf area, in such a sufficient amount that it would have caused marine mass extinction. Further, it would have disrupted the weather patterns in such a large extent that it caused extinction of organisms in the land. Next is called as global cooling. Significant and sustained global cooling would have killed many polar and temperate species. It would have forced other organisms to migrate towards the equator and thus reduce the area which was available for the tropical species. It would have made the Earth's climate more arid on the average by locking up the planet's water in ice or the snow. Another theory is the global warming, which would have resulted in the effects just opposite to what we discussed for global cooling. It would have expanded the area available for tropical species and thus killed the temperate species or forced them to migrate towards the poles. It possibly would have caused severe extinction of polar species. Also, it would have melted the snow, making the Earth's climate wetter and increasing the volume of the water cycle. Another interesting hypothesis about cause of mass extinction is clathrate gun hypothesis. The composites in which a lattice of one substance forms a cage around another one is called as clathrates. There have been methane clathrates formed in which The water molecules are the cage, and they would have formed on continental shelves. The clathrates would have broken up rapidly and they could have released the methane gas. It could have been possible because of the rise in temperature or because of drop in the pressure. In response of sudden global warming or a sudden drop in sea level or the earthquakes, methane eruption would have taken place. And these methane eruption is called as clathrate guns. So this is another hypothesis to explain the occurrence of mass extinction events. Moving ahead, another theory is anoxic events. In such events, middle or upper layers of ocean would have become deficient or totally lacking in the oxygen. It coincides with lethal lowering of bioavailability of essential trace elements, particularly the selenium, because of which most of the marine organisms would have become extinct. Next theory is called as oceanic overturn. According to this, there is a disruption of thermohaline circulation. It lets the surface water, which is more saline than the deep water because of evaporation, sink straight down, and thus it brings anoxic deep water to the surface, which further kills most of the oxygen breathing organisms which inhabit the surface and the middle depths in the ocean. So this is called as oceanic overturn. Another cause of mass extinction has been the gamma ray burst. A nearby gamma ray burst, that means what we mean by nearby is less than 6,000 light years away from the Earth. Such a gamma ray burst would have destroyed the Earth's ozone layer, because of which the organisms became vulnerable to the ultraviolet radiations which were coming from the sun. These gamma ray bursts, though are very quite rare events, but they could have caused such a mass extinction event. Another theory is called as plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is the movement of continents, and it could have caused or contributed to extinctions in several ways. For example, by initiating or ending the ice ages, by changing the ocean and the wind currents and thus altering the climate overall. All it could have opened seaways or land bridges which exposed previously isolated species to competition for which they are poorly adapted. So there could have been different ways in which this movement of continents or plate tectonics could have resulted in the mass extinction. Then, after discussing all these causes which are common to all mass extinction events, let us now move towards the mass extinction events, and then we will discuss their cause and effect with respect to that particular mass extinction event. The first mass extinction event is called as Ordovician-Silurian extinction. This extinction event took place at around 440 million years ago. Scientists theorize that there were two main phases to this extinction: a glaciation event and a heating event. Abundant plant life removed carbon dioxide from the air, causing global cooling and the glacier formation. This led to a drop in the sea levels, reducing the habitat. And then later came the global warming and sea level rising again. Creatures that had adapted to the cooler climate were unable to survive the increased temperature. Since most of the fauna at that time was marine, almost 85 to 86% life got lost. In this 85 to 86%, mainly the marine invertebrates like graptolites, brachiopods and conodonts are the famous ones which got extinct from Earth in this very first mass extinction event. Moving ahead, the second extinction event is called as Late Devonian extinction. Late Devonian extinction took place at around 365 million years ago. About 75% of life died off during this period. One theory suggests that the land plants developed deep roots, releasing an abundance of nutrients into the oceans that fed algae. Because of this, algal blooms came into play, and they consumed vast amounts of oxygen in the oceans, which suffocated many species in the oceans. Another theory suggests that another global cooling took place, resulting in the glaciation and a fall in the sea level, leading to the habitat loss. In this mass extinction events, almost 75% of all the species got extinct, mainly the brachiopods, bivalves, and sarcopterygians. This was the second mass extinction event that Earth faced in its history. Moving ahead, the third mass extinction event was Permian-Triassic extinction event. Now, this was the most dangerous, I would say, mass extinction events. It took place at around 252 million years ago. It was the deadliest extinction in the history. Almost 95 to 96% species which were there on Earth at that time got lost in this event. Scientists believe that volcanic activity in Siberia put massive amounts of carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere. The bacteria that thrive on carbon dioxide began producing methane. Methane is another greenhouse effect. Thus, large quantities of both the carbon dioxide and the methane gases warm the planet and combined with Earth's water, making the ocean and rain acidic in nature. And this created a highly toxic environment for life. So these are the theories which have been put forward as a possible cause of this mass extinction event. This was the third mass extinction event, and because of its deadly nature and the loss that it resulted, it has been named as the Great Dying. The major species, particularly the marine species which got extinct, included Dimetrodon, Astamenoschius, Orthocanthus, Trilobites, and the moschops. Moving ahead, let's talk about the next extinction events, which is fourth in the series and named as Triassic-Jurassic extinction. It took place at around 201.3 million years ago. Some scientists theorize that volcanic eruption spewed tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, which trapped heat and acidified the oceans, causing the mass extinction. This is the one theory. Second theory, or scientists contend that an asteroid or comet impact triggered the extinction. Almost 80% of biodiversity or the species which were there on Earth, they got extinct in this mass extinction event. It included most of the mammals, making way for the dinosaurs' ancestors. These species which got extinct include ichthyosaurs, paddle-finned plesiosaurs, phytoplanktons, many species of frogs, salamanders, turtles, snakes, spiders, grasshoppers, etc. Let's move ahead to the recent most or the last or the fifth mass extinction event that has taken place on Earth. It has been named as Cretaceous-paleogene extinction, and it took place at around 66 million years ago. The Cretaceous-paleogene extinction wiped out the dinosaurs along with 60 to 76% of other life on Earth. And the widely accepted or the most accepted theory for this extinction event is that an asteroid landed in the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mexico and it killed the dinosaurs. The impact would have ejected enormous amount of debris into the atmosphere, causing global temperatures to drop. The impact may have also caused local fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, acid rains, etc. This mass extinction event is called as KPG extinction for Cretaceous-paleogene. It is also called as Cretaceous tertiary or KT extinction event. Out of 75 to 76% of species that got lost, most of them were known avian dinosaurs, bivalves, inoceramids, and the flying reptiles called pterosaurs. Now, besides these 5 major mass extinction events that we have discussed, there is a proposal that there is a 6th extinction event which is currently going on, and that is why we are calling it as holocene extinction. Now, this holocene extinction, scientists believe that it started at around 11,700 years ago and it is still going on till present. Now, scientists believe that this 6th mass extinction event is already happening, and this current extinction rate is at least 1,000 times greater than the normal extinction rate or the background extinction rate. You might remember in previous slides we discussed a normal or background extinction rate is the average rate of extinction based on the longevity of a species through time without human influence, determined by the fossil records. Scientists believe that human impact on the environment is the leading cause of extinctions today. And that's why there is a proposal called HIPPO. Now, HIPPO stands for habitat destruction, invasive species, pollution, human overpopulation, overharvesting by hunting and fishing. If you see, all these activities are anthropogenic in nature or human-led activities. We are destroying the habitats of other species. We are introducing invasive species here and there. We are causing pollution. Our population is increasing day by day, and there is always over harvesting of by hunting or fishing, which is causing an ecological imbalance, and in turn which is making many species extinct. So this loss is, as we just mentioned, is almost 1,000 times more than the background extinction rate. So we can call it as a mass extinction event which is going on from last almost 11,000 years till date, and we name it as holocene extinction. This is the summary of all these events which we discussed, all these 6 major mass extinction events, the percentage loss that they have incurred, and the timing that when in the geological time scale when they occurred. Now let us talk about the effect of mass extinction. So far we have talked about the causes of mass extinction events, and side by side for all these 5 major mass extinction events we saw the biodiversity loss in terms of percentage, what it has resulted in. But in terms of effects of mass extinction events, let's categorize that in 2 separate categories. There is a negative effect of these mass extinction events, and there is a positive effect of mass extinctions. In terms of negative effects, so far in the previous slides we have seen that it has diminished the existing biodiversity. So almost 75% of species got lost with each mass extinction event, and thus it changed the ecological structure. It caused an imbalance in the ecological structure of Earth. So that is the negative effect we have seen. But there is a positive side of mass extinction as well. It paves the path for new evolutionary and ecological development. It promotes the range of species, thus increase the biodiversity or competition or complexity. Assume a situation that the whole earth or a particular ecosystem or habitat is inhabited by a particular species which is not allowing other species to flourish. Now, because of this mass extinction event, let's assume that this species got extinct. Now, there is no predator as such for other species to prey upon. So, other species which were unable to flourish because of that previously existing species, now they can flourish in this atmosphere. So, it provided a way for new species to come up, a new ecological structure, a new development of ecology and evolution, and it promoted that biodiversity. So this is a positive side of mass extinction as well. Now, since we have discussed all these types of mass extinction, their causes and effects, let us talk particularly about the KT extinction. KT extinction is the recent most extinction event that has taken place on Earth. Let us talk about this in a bit detail. KT extinction is another name for Cretaceous-paleogene extinction. That means it took place at around the geological time between Cretaceous period and the Paleogene period. And that is why it has been abbreviated as KPG extinction. K stands for Cretaceous and PG stands for Paleogene extinction. Sometimes we also call it as Cretaceous tertiary. Again, for Cretaceous we use K and for tertiary we use T, and hence the name KT extinction has been given to this extinction event. Now the question comes, why do not we call it as CT extinction instead of KT extinction? Because there is Cretaceous, so we should use C instead of K. Why we are using K here in KT extinction? Now, this is because of the reason that K has been used as a shorthand for Cretaceous, because before Cretaceous there has been Cambrian period in geological time scale, and geologists have already used C abbreviation or shorthand for that Cambrian period. So that is why, to avoid the confusion, to keep it separate, scientists have used K for Cretaceous, and that is why the KT extinction or KPG extinction has been used instead of CT or CPG extinction for the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction. This extinction event took place at around 65 to 66 million years ago, and as we just noticed in the previous slide, approximate 75 to 76% species got lost after this mass extinction event. Now let us talk about the cause of KT mass extinction particularly. The most supported theory for the cause of KT mass extinction is the collision with asteroid and volcanic eruption, and both of these has been combinedly put in the collision theory. This theory got supported because of discovery of iridium deposits in the strata marking the Cretaceous tertiary boundary. So, how the discovery of iridium supported the theory of collision or extraterrestrial impact, which led to the KT mass extinction. See, iridium is one of the rarest element in Earth's crust, but iridium is abundant in the asteroids and meteorites. So on Earth, if you have found an iridium deposit, it is possible that it would have come through asteroids and or comets or through the extraterrestrial bodies, because on Earth it is not there. The discovery of iridium deposits thus supported the theory of collision of asteroids or meteorites. Now, if there is a huge or large size asteroid or meteorite which has collided with Earth, it is expected that a large size crater would have formed. Fortunately, scientists found that as well, and this is called as chip-slip crater, which has been discovered in the year 1993 in the Mexico. This crater has outer diameter of around 200 kilometer. You can have an idea about a 200-kilometer diameter crater has been formed because of the collision of these asteroid or meteorites around 66 million years ago. What would have been its impact? Obviously, it would have led to a mass extinction events, which we are calling as KT extinction events today. Now, besides this asteroid and meteorite collision, there would have been a volcanic eruption as well, which would have played a role in the mass extinction event. The enormous outpouring of around 4.1 million kilometer cube of volcanic lava in the form of the Deccan traps that covered almost one-third of India during the late Cretaceous extinction. It provides a support for the role of volcanic activity in this mass extinction. Here you can see in this map the area which has been shown with this orange color. It marks the Deccan Trap. Now this is the largest area which has been covered with the volcanic lava across the world or on the earth. As you can see, approximate 4.1 million kilometer cube of volcanic lava which has covered the Deccan Trap in India and is covering almost one-third of India. Now, in terms of effect of KT extinction, we have already seen that it resulted in the loss of around 76% of species, including the non-avian dinosaurs, the flying reptiles, bivalves, giant non-archosaurian aquatic reptiles such as mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, and many such species got extinct in the KT extinction. Now, what would have been the positive effect of KT extinction? As we just discussed previously, that any mass extinction provides a way for flourishing of other species as well. So it provides a new evolutionary or ecological development. With KT extinction also it happened so. Radiation of mammals. See, because before KT extinction, it was mainly the reptiles which were inhabiting the earth at that particular time. After this KT extinction, most of the reptiles or the dinosaurs got extinct. So it provided an opportunity for the mammals to flourish. Not just they increased in number, they moved in different directions or geographical areas as well. So they radiated, they got dispersed in different areas. Besides that, evolution of birds that has taken place after KT extinction, though it was there, but it provided a good flourishing environment for birds to evolve. So these are the positive sides of KT extinction. Before that, both mammals and birds were not that flourishing. It was mainly the reptiles which were living in that particular era. Let us now move ahead to summary of this lecture. This lecture we talked about the extinction and its types in terms of background or the normal extinction which keeps on going on generally in normal evolutionary settings. Then we talked about the mass extinctions, that means which are of much larger scale as compared to the background extinction. Unlike background extinction, mass extinction causes the loss of biodiversity in terms of more species. It is not restricted to one species as in case of background extinction. Moreover, mass extinction causes more than 75% species loss. Further higher scale is the global extinction, which causes the extinction of almost all the species on a particular continent or Earth per se, as we talked about the snowball Earth. Then we moved ahead with the mass extinction events. We discussed the various mass extinction events that have taken place on Earth. That is the big five major mass extinction events that have taken place on Earth so far. And then we talked about causes in general. Then we talked about specific theories of mass extinction events of each type. Also, we discussed both the negative sides and the positive side of each mass extinction events in terms of biodiversity loss on negative side and opportunity for other species to flourish on the positive sides. And lastly, we talked about the most recent mass extinction event that has taken place on Earth, which is called as KT mass extinction event. We talked about the KT mass extinction events, the possible reason for that event in terms of extraterrestrial impact and the effects it resulted in. These are some of the books which you can refer for mass extinction in detail. One by Ridley, Holland Holgrimson and Douglas G. Futuyama. Besides that, there are certain websites which you can refer for mass extinction events, particularly the National Geographic one and the Kansas University mass extinctions website, web resource which you can use for understanding the mass extinction in detail. Now with this, I would like to thank you.